Today, we're going to dive into the precise moment where real, lasting change actually happens. And here's a hint. It's not about some grand, sweeping gesture or just sheer willpower. Nope. It's about a single point in time that holds the key to unlocking a totally new future. So let's just start with a question I'm pretty sure we've all asked ourselves at some point. Why is it so darn hard to break a pattern? I mean, you can think about changing, you can make a whole plan for it, you can want it more than anything, but somehow you just end up right back where you started. It feels like you're fighting an invisible force, right? Well, it turns out you kind of are. Our brains have this built-in feature that keeps us locked in place, and it's called the cognitive comfort trap. And this is what we're talking about, the cognitive comfort trap. But listen, this isn't some flaw in your character or a lack of willpower. It's actually a feature of your brain's operating system, designed for maximum efficiency. See, this whole trap is built on something called cognitive ease. Our brains are absolute geniuses at creating shortcuts, right? They build these little if this, then that pathways to save energy. Think about driving to work. You don't consciously map out every single turn, your brain just does it. That's cognitive ease. That's your brain on autopilot. But here's the catch. While that autopilot is super efficient, it can also become a prison. When we get too comfortable with those automatic patterns, we essentially get stuck inside a box. It stops us from growing, it keeps us from evolving, and it really hurts our ability to adapt when life throws us a curveball. All our big goals and dreams, they get pushed to the side because our brain just prefers the easy, familiar road. So the big question is, how do we break out of the box? Well, the answer lies in one single, incredibly powerful idea: the moment of impact. This is the key. The moment of impact is exactly what it sounds like. It's that one critical point in time when a habit is actually happening. It's not the 5 minutes before, and it's not the regret you feel after. It is the only moment, and I mean the only moment, that you can jump in and actually steer the ship in a different direction. And this is so important to get. You can't just think about changing. Daydreaming about it won't do a thing. The real work, the real transformation, only happens when you make a different choice during that moment of impact. It's about grabbing the steering wheel back from the autopilot. So when you do that, when you intervene in that moment, you're doing something pretty profound. You are actively hacking and rewriting the code that your brain has been running, maybe for years. Think about it like this. Our old habits are running on a really simple script, right? It's just, if this trigger happens, then I have my automatic knee-jerk reaction. But by jumping into that moment of impact, you get to write a whole new script. It says, if that same trigger happens, then I'm going to consciously take a deep breath and choose this new, intentional response. Now, of course, this isn't a one-and-done kind of deal. It's not a magic bullet. Habits are built by doing things over and over and over. The source material puts it perfectly. It took countless repetitions to build that old habit, and it's going to take that same kind of focused practice to strengthen the new one. And here's the really cool part. Every single time you choose that new script, you're setting a new precedent in your mind. This is where the amazing science of neuroplasticity kicks in. You are literally, physically rewiring your brain. You're carving a new pathway that, with enough practice, will become the new default, stronger and more automatic than the old one ever was. Okay, so the theory makes sense, but how do we actually do this in the real world? How do we go from a mindless, automatic reaction to a mindful, chosen response? Well, it really boils down to a super simple, 3-step process you can use right there in the moment. First, you have to recognize the trigger as it's happening. Second, you have to insert a pause. This is your emergency brake for the autopilot. And finally, you choose a new thought or a different action. That's it. Recognize, pause, choose. Let's walk through a classic example: anger. So the trigger is someone says something that just pushes your buttons. The old reaction, that immediate flash of heat, the anger. But in that moment of impact, you recognize the feeling, you pause for just a second, and then you choose a new thought. Maybe something like, okay, wait, their behavior is about them, not me. And that one simple shift in thinking, it does way more than just change your mood. It can literally stop the chemical rampage of stress hormones that's about to flood your body. You are taking back control of your own internal chemistry. How cool is that? And hey, this isn't just for so-called negative emotions. It works for positive ones too, like passion. The trick here is to think of your passion like an investment. If you go all in with this wild, uncontrolled excitement, you're setting yourself up for an equally massive disappointment if things go south. So the moment of impact is choosing to balance your emotional portfolio. Diversify your energy instead of betting the whole farm on one thing. It really all comes down to this simple idea. In that moment of impact, when you feel that huge surge of excitement, you choose to just moderate it a little. By controlling the energy you put in, you protect yourself from a devastating energy crash on the way out. And when you start to master these moments, just one by one, you begin to build something truly incredible. You start creating what the source material so beautifully calls your self-inflicted paradise. Now, let's be clear, this isn't some final destination you arrive at. It's a continuous, ongoing process, a constant renovation of self. You're always going to be finding new moments, new scenarios, new habits to apply this to as you grow. But the payoff? Oh, it's huge. Every moment of impact you successfully navigate gives you wisdom. It forces you to look in the mirror, to really understand your own emotions and your thinking. You learn to adapt, you learn to build, and that process of growth itself becomes this incredibly motivating and empowering cycle. Ultimately, what you're gaining here is power. It's the agency to consciously build a life that feels right, that feels joyful, and that feels authentically yours, not a life that's just dictated by a bunch of pre-programmed reactions you never chose. And when you master this, your inner peace is no longer held hostage by outside forces. It doesn't matter where you are, what's happening around you, or how other people are behaving. Your happiness becomes something you generate from the inside out. So I'll leave you with this final thought. This isn't just some interesting idea to think about. It's a tool you can pick up and use this very second. So ask yourself, what is the very first moment of impact, that one small automatic habit that you are going to choose to change starting today?